Alright, class, well, thank you for joining us today. Now, let's have a look here at this sound wave over here. What do we think this represents? I mean, you haven't really taught us anything in this class yet. We've kind of just been sitting here. Right, well, today we're not even going to explain it. We're just going to sit around and do nothing for the whole lesson, and then right after that, we're just going to do nothing for the next 3-4 weeks. Does that sound great? So does that mean we're going to be doing any work at all this term? Oh, what do you think this is? A class? Or what we're going to be doing in today's lesson is just simply looking at the diagram over here, taking your guesses on what you think it is, and then of course what we're going to be doing right after is observing for the whole day for the next 4 hours. That's all we're going to be doing. Alright? Hey guys! So last video I spoke about some of my stories that I did with my live performances and a lot of the guitar playing that I did when I was in school a year ago. So today I thought I'd go over some of my stories that happened while I was in my engineering classes for sound. But first, we need to first know what sound engineering is. Alright, so the AI overview describes it as the technical and creative application of science and technology to capture, manipulate, and reproduce sound. First time I've ever heard of that happening. So now that we have the baseline understanding of our good friend AI overviews, I should talk about how the hell I even got into the course in the first place. Now, during my last 2 years of school, we were given a course that we could do of anything. We had a numerous selection, and one of them was originally, which was the one I was supposed to do, was a live performance where, you know, you would play with other people, you gain certain experiences, at the end of it you'd be given a certificate. Now this was for everything: cooking, hairdressing, anything that you kind of needed, they could give you as a course. And for sound and music, they had live performances and sound engineering. Now at the time I wasn't too much of a fan of doing sound engineering. I thought it'd be boring and kind of ridiculous, so instead I opted in for live performances, and I thought, oh, this will be great, this will work really well. Of course, then when my teacher told me, they said, unfortunately it's available and we can't do that for you anymore. So instead of me getting the course I actually want to do, I have to do this completely separate course related, because of course I wasn't really going into anything else, because nothing else was super interesting to me. Now of course these courses weren't actually taking place in my school, so my school would give me an escort pass in order for me to go from my school to the completely other school that I had to go to. This other school that I had to go to for my engineering course was a far nicer place, better than the dumpster fire that I was from. So we'd be given a bus, we'd go on and we'd go to the course. And so we'd be driving. Now the drive was about, like a 15-20 minute drive to get there. And well put together Catholic school that we were doing it at. I have to say the classes and the school and everything looked well done and extremely proper. So as I was discussing at the start of this video, I happened to do 2 years of this course for my last 2 years of high school. And overall, if I had to give an experience of 1 being the worst thing I've ever done and 10 being it was the best experience, I'd recommend it to anyone, I'm going to give it about a good 7. So even though I'm going to be talking about my teacher or my fellow classmates in this story, I'm not actually here to bag at any of them. They're actually quite nice people, but of course we all have our imperfect flaws about each other. And of course, I do as well. So regardless, I'm still going to bag them out regardless. It's also worth noting that this was a 2-year course, so year 11 and year 12 for me were both spent doing this while I was doing school at the same time. So, yeah, it was actually pretty good. So now that I've kind of set the scenery, now we can start. During my first year of my engineering school, I really found out that it's really about observation. Because half the time the teacher would be giving us a lesson on something, and then he'd say, alright, now you watch me do it for the next 5 hours. And then that's the whole lesson. You're not going to write anything, you're not going to do anything, that's the whole thing that we're going to do. And that's it. Which to me was kind of ridiculous. Isn't the whole point of everything that we're doing supposed to be to learn from him? And now I get the whole point of, you know, you're watching what you're doing so you're able to see what a professional does. But when we were given work, he wouldn't necessarily teach us the work, we would simply just sit there and watch him do it, and then right after we'd look at 1 page of a piece of work that we should be doing, and then he'd already tell us we're already behind in the work and that we need to do it, which was already kind of ridiculous to me. And on top of that, this was a nice school, you know, private school and whatnot. It had very good funding. Inside of the school they had this elevator which could go up and down from the first and to the second floor of the building. Our main class was on the 2nd floor, and that was my first time that I'd ever seen an elevator in any other building outside of an office or any kind of workspace. So I thought, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. This is a pretty nice place. Now, our first year was a decent struggle, you know, getting through most of the work, watching a lot and sitting a lot. I remember there were some days where we would sit down, because, you know, this was like a 6-hour-long class. We'd all be sitting down there and be like, oh, I can't wait for what we're actually going to do this class. And then realize that my teacher had to go off and work on a separate performance with younger students, and he was like, alright, I'll just bring you guys along. So we'd walk with him and go to the other class, and we'd just sit there and do nothing. I mean, don't get me wrong, we got to watch some of how his work was, but then he'd just say not to interact with him, as he was actually working with other professionals in the field to do it. So we weren't really getting much of the inside look at how the classes work and how it was structured or anything. We were more just little guinea pigs that would sit there and do nothing. Now, here comes my second year where I'm thinking, alright, first year wasn't as strong, second year is going to be just as strong. We're going to hopefully do something different. And of course, you'd be wrong for believing that. You're very incorrect. See, how I thought this class went was, you take 2 years of one single class, and then after the 2 years, when the course is finished, you bring on the next class. That's not how it works at all. We had my class aside in the first year, and then on my second year, we were mixed in with people who were doing their first year at the same time. So our classwork is divided into two. Him doing work for the second years, and then him doing work for the first years as well. And you can tell a lot that he's doing a lot of pandering to the first years, because primarily that's his main focus. And so as a second year who's been working with him for quite some time, like a year now, and we're thinking, we're going to be able to do something different, I know you're actually going to get neglected, because you realize that all the time and effort that you've put into Hope build, something where you're able to get into finally do some live work, because, it goes on like a trust-based system, and, you get more opportunities in that way. I was like, he's definitely going to be able to do this. And you're still wrong for thinking it. Why do you keep believing me in this video? Because it seems like his focuses were much more on the younger students than it was the older ones, because we already kind of knew how things worked. He more just left us to our own devices, keep piling us with homework, and that's kind of it. And then of course that's kind of how it was for the rest of my second year, working on just purely observation and sitting on a back burner, as he focuses more on the younger students than he does the newer ones. And here's the thing, if I'm running this class, I wouldn't be taking another batch of students until the first 2 years are finished, so then I can have my full undivided attention to the next class, so I'm able to help nurture them and teach them better. But of course that's just never how that works, clearly. And I assume it's because of the high demand of the class. I think even though in my first year, when that year had finished, about half the class had dropped out. So we had gone from a cohort of maybe like 20 people or so, 25 people, to about a little under 10, because of the dramatic drop-off. But also could have been that he had to fill in the class a little bit more to keep it running and add in first years, which made it vastly more complicated than what it had to be. Now, let's take a quick guess, class. How many times did I actually get to work in a mixing room or get to work with a console? Let's wait for your answers to come in the comments. Now that's right, class, a total of 2 times. My first experience was that I was able to mix a singular song that I would record with one of my fellow classmates, and we got to work on it for maybe a few hours, and that was it. The second time, I was mixing a mass for the school. As you can see, a real treasure trove of information for someone who really wants to get into the space and really understand. Now, to wrap up this video, what do I think of my engineering experiences? In my case, it was fun. Don't get me wrong, I've been talking about a lot of negative experiences this video, but I definitely have a lot of positive ones that I'm of course going to stretch out for multiple videos to make as much money as possible. But overall, I think it was a good experience, even though of course none of my work was handed in or anything, and I mainly just sat there, but I really do think it was fun and enjoyable. And hey, now I've got the qualification, even though of course it's all just going to get replaced by AI anyway, so that's great, But anyway guys, I'll make a few more follow-up videos about some more stories that I have about my experiences, but I thought for this video it would I give you an overall experience of all of my time there, just the general gist of anything. So if you're someone who wants to pursue the industry, there's definitely plenty of great classes out there, I'm sure, but mine, it was alright. Okay, bye.